Hello, everyone, and welcome to Performance Anxiety's 19th online event. My name is Tom Snarsky, and I'm so excited to be here in the company of our wonderful group of readers this evening. A quick bit of background before we get to tonight's reading. In case you haven't listened in before, Performance Anxiety is an online reading series hosted via Skype, usually on the third Thursday of every month at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. At each of our events, we usually feature up to 10 readers who each have around 5 minutes to share a selection of their writing with us. Tonight we had, more info in that past tense in a moment, 10 fabulous readers on our playbill to share their poems with you. This many slots every month means we're always looking for folks who would be interested in reading with us. So if you're a poet or a writer who'd be interested in sharing your work at a future event, you're more than welcome to get in touch with us via the @PerformanceAnxiety Twitter account. That's @Performance, PERFORMANCE, anxiety abbreviated ANXT on Twitter. Or you can DM the co-organizers directly. I'm at Tom Snarsky, TOMSNARSKY on Twitter and Instagram, or you can email me at tomsnarsky@gmail.com, same spelling. This is when I would normally introduce Performance Anxiety's co-organizer, the inimitable Kristin Garth, but it's with a heavy heart that I report Kristin and her family are currently recovering from the Gulf Coast natural disaster that was Hurricane Sally. And so she's not able to join us this evening due to a lack of power, a lack of internet, and a lack of certainty that we've all gotten used to a much lesser degree than that. This means that even though it's a quite small gesture, we would really like to dedicate tonight's reading to Kristin, her family, and her community on the Gulf Coast recovering from Sally and living in, again, even more acute of a version of the uncertainty we've come to know so well now. So, Kristin, this one's for you. I hope that you get to see this when your phone is able to charge with some consistency. So without any further ado, and to bring poetry into a space that I was rude enough to bring sadness into, I'd like to introduce our first reader of the evening, a performance anxiety veteran, Mela Blust. Mela Blust's work has been nominated for Best of the Net and a Pushcart Prize, and has appeared in many literary journals. Her debut poetry collection, Skeleton Parade, is available with APEP Publications. Mela is also a contributing editor for Barron Magazine, who I think is either still taking submissions for a new issue or is about to release an amazing new one. So, Mela, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I cannot wait to hear your poems, which I haven't heard in a while, so they're going to blow my socks off. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, thank you so much, Tom. I appreciate it. So I'm going to start by reading a first poem called The Darkest Hopeful Song. We are riots in long deserted streets, raging oceans trapped in globes, lips assaulting faces, nipples, branches growing from invasive trees, fingers weaving a tapestry from threads dying to turn themselves inside out, eyes always selling something, a smile, a weapon, heat, hoping to break free from the loving hands of our captors as our children spread joy among desolation. Our hearts are filled with the scripture of survival, and our bodies are notes of the darkest hopeful song. The next one is called They Found a Woman's Body. I called my mother with death upon my heart, lips, silence too loud for sound. I had to tell her about the forest that she was walking in, how they found a woman's body. Every singular moment ached into that one sentence. Hasn't it always? They found a woman's body. Laying at the cracked steps of tomorrow, shards of grass protecting her, a smoke bomb, tear gas flashbang away from whatever comes next. The sun and the moon and the earth make a sound we can't hear because we aren't collectively listening. But if you graze your fingertips across the tops of grain, you will feel her breathing. They'll pull aside the curtain one day, they'll tear it all down, and when every willing and able soul steps forward with light in their hearts, desperate to be fed and aching for love, they'll find a woman's body. And this last poem that I'm going to read is called All the Lilies Are in Bloom, and I dedicated it to my husband. All the lilies are in bloom when the slate is wiped clean. It seems every day is an ocean spilled, but nothing rends my heart in two like your tears, and I forgive you. Your thumb creases a divot into my worn shell, my forehead the shore where your kisses wash up. My name is a pearl on your tongue, You turn me over and over, and you never find a flaw. And that's all I have.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Mela, for leading us off with such a gorgeous introduction to tonight's reading. And that, again, was Mela Blust, who you can follow on Twitter at Mela Blust, MELABLUST, and on Instagram at Mela, MELA_Blust. And I can't stress enough that those poems, including the title poem, came from Mela's new full-length feminist poetry collection, They Found a Woman's Body, which is available for pre-order right now at Vegetarian Alcoholic Press, an amazing, amazing venue that's published some great work, of which this continues the tradition. Her profits are going to be donated to organizations benefiting people of color. Thank you so much, Mela. We appreciate it. And what an awesome start to tonight's reading.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm really excited to introduce our second reader, who is staying up into the wee hours because he's joining us from across the pond in the UK, Nick Newman. And Nick grew up in China and Scotland and studies English Lit at the University of Leeds. He procrastinates by writing, and he has a poem forthcoming in Rigwelter Press, another amazing venue. Thank you so much, Nick, for being here, for braving the deep, dark midnight to be with us. I'm really excited to hear what you're going to share with us tonight.
Can you all hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me.
We can hear you. It's a bit quiet if there's anything you can do to boost it, but other than that, you sound great.
I'll just shout as much as I can. My first poem for tonight is called Murmuration. It's about God and silence being God. Murmuration. Murmuration, noun, murmuring. A doubtful word for a flock of starlings. I ask you what you mean by God. You say he is breath. You say silence is holy. You like silences. They don't chide as you part their skin. You want a God you can worship, but break with a whisper. Sometimes you even hide in the linen closet, saying his name again and again, a sanctity, a lack. If silence were God, you would chew him up and spit out starlings, rising as a gossamer hallelujah. But I guess one day you turned your back. Now a hush fills your games, friend. You stray from me, curl a cat's cradle around your frame, and as you gutter in the spindled breeze, I am learning to hold my breath. The only quiet that is holy is hospital silence, God marked solely by what he takes. Now I have two short poems. The first is, thank you, the first is about a mug I dropped, and the second is about my sister. Outline. The mug is cracked, dendritic, twiggy exhalations in mantling white. Tree-line spires, bleached divide, the silhouette of a slatted pine. I put it in the back of the cupboard to grow. My sister. My sister and I used to lie under the same covers, whispering fireflies back and forth, in summer nights that felt like the word cherish. Then I bit her. My next poem is based on an image prompt of a woman standing in a lake raising an axe above her head, and it's called The Day Eurydice Dies. The day Eurydice dies, you crack the land for her. Only earth can split earth, she would say. So you sink your toes into mother soft soil, lift the axe, and breathe out her last kiss. There, right before you swing, her face, soft in the water, muddy curls fanning out. I still have your hair tie, you want to say. You left it at mine, and I should have given it back, and now it seems like you could really use it. But she gives you a look like, I haven't got all day, so your axe smashes her back to pondweed. And my last poem is just a poem about home. We built a hearth on the A91. I miss a person, a place, home found in her shoulder crook as we move into the long coach ride. I know this will stay, and maybe, when we are old and strange, we will visit and say here. Here in the rise and fall, the engine hum, the road breath beneath us, we kindled the night. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nick. That was absolutely gorgeous. And that, again, one more time, was Nick Newman, who stayed up super late on UK time to join us tonight. And Nick is followable on Twitter @_Nick Newman, NickNewman. And please keep an eye out for Nick's poem coming pretty soon from Rigwelter Press, I believe edited by Jonathan Kinsman, a really awesome place. And we're really excited to read that poem. Thank you so much for those. So, man, we're moving through. Everybody's being so respectful about time, which is like amazing and beautiful. So I'm really excited to introduce our next poet, a fellow member of the Post Drafts to the Timeline crew, which I really respect and appreciate, Rachel Tanner. And Rachel Tanner is an Alabamian poet whose work has recently appeared in Videodame, memoir mixtapes, and elsewhere. She tweets @Rickit, RICKIT, where you can find some of these drafts, but also the beautiful polished poems I'm sure she's going to share with us tonight. Thanks, Rachel, for being here. We're really excited to hear it.
All right. Can you hear me? All right. So this one is called Tuesday. Today, I'm so glad that I didn't die last week. Just now, I met a man who believed in me, and I wore a floral top with matching floral tennis shoes, and good Lord, I looked like a fresh bouquet of roses. What good are roses if they're dead? When I say I actually feel alive again, I don't mean I'm merely living. I mean I'm alive as in, holy shit, my heart is the size of the empty Quiznos on the corner that went out of business. My heart is the sound of all the traffic on this side of town that I'll now have the chance to complain about. There are several lives I could lead, but I just want one. I just want mine. My God, what a thing, to stay alive after trying to die. And this one is called Leviathan. All of mine are pretty short. So this one is Leviathan. I can feel her, God circling the earth like a vulture, watching and waiting for the rot of the people she made, for the inevitable end when the bottom falls out until there's nowhere left for us to land. She says that we are self-made. Whatever aching within us that destroys us was our own doing. We unraveled by ourselves. She tells me this quietly, somberly, says she's made mistakes before, but nothing quite like this. Nothing quite like us. And this one is called Genuflect. So maybe I need to learn to pray. Maybe these knees need to find common ground in front of you as I ask for forgiveness, ask for answers, ask to hold your futures between my palms and across my tongue. When I was a child, I would light candles and talk to the sky just in case. I knew that someday I wouldn't believe anymore. But I am starting to believe again, and this time my holy is standing against a wall, checking his phone for messages, looking back at me and smiling. God, I don't know much. I know your softness and I know your heart. I know the way your lips curl upwards when you're in the middle of me. Know the way your eyes flicker depending on my hands. Know that the end of this beginning will catch me unguarded, resting with my head in your lap, sighing and satisfied and sweet. This one is called Out Back. There's a window next to my bed, and I can hear the coyotes at nighttime yowling themselves awake. This is Alabama, so the bugs sound year-round, and sweat is just another accessory. Last night, I was listening to the outside coming in from my window, and I realized that maybe things could be simple after all. Maybe the moon really is looking down on us, waiting for us to engage it in conversation about how the universe tipped itself over just for us, just for one night. The foxes play out by the back gate and make a horrible screeching noise when they're upset, and I understand. I get lonely too. This is called In Real Life. Let's talk about the newness of it all, of the beginnings that followed me home the entire hour drive back from your house the morning you heard me throw up from last night's wine and tried to kiss me goodbye anyway. The night was warm. I mostly remember how I was shaking when I took your hand and put it on my knee while we watched some old movie you'd bought on Amazon. You kissed my head, kissed my mouth, found a new place for my clothes, and said, "Let me look at you." You gathered me up, every piece, every year I've spent alone, and molded my pasts into something recognizable, something sweet as the conversations on your love seat before we moved to the couch, before we moved to the bed, before we moved in ways I thought my body had forgotten. I have never known you before, but I remember you anyway. And I'm good on time, right? All right. This is called a 1.5-hour drive. Honestly, you can go fuck yourself is what I wanted to say the night you held me and told me I wasn't enough for you. Instead, I played it cool, played it coy, played your words back in my head to be sure I had heard you correctly. I brought you flowers for your birthday because you're more beautiful every time I see you, because when I saw the flowers, I thought of you, because I knew no one had ever given you flowers before, because no reason in particular. I lose a little of myself every time I go 65 down 431 at 7 the morning after. All I asked for was some hope. And then I have another short one that I will read. I saw your 1-minute warning. This is called With Teeth. You tell me that nothing is more intimate than sex. I tell you that the most intimate thing two people can do is brush their teeth near each other. All the wet, all the spit. It is impossible to brush your teeth properly and still look cute. It is the ultimate exercise in trust. The ultimate declaration of, hey, I'm comfortable around you. You disappear into your bathroom and come out with your toothbrush and toothpaste. You sit in front of me and brush your teeth. With nowhere to spit, you let it run down your chin as if to say this mess is yours now too. And that's all I got.
Thank you so much, Rachel. That was a beautiful, beautiful image, as I am sorely in need of a toothbrushing at this time of night. That again was Rachel Tanner, who joined us and shared some really amazing poems, some of which, actually, I'm not sure I said that, but I don't know. Some of which might be able to be found in her downloadable free chapbook, Our Alternate Universes, which you can find in her Twitter bio at Rickit, R-I-C-K-I-T. So whether or not they were in there, that chapbook is an amazing and singular piece of work. Please check it out. And now you're going to think about intimacy as toothbrushing for the rest of forever. So good for you. Thanks so much again, Rachel. Yeah, everybody's, it's like usually the poets are rowdy and they read their epics and they go over time. So I'm like, wow, we're just so respectful of the 5-minute limit. So I appreciate that, but also feel free to break the rules, especially that is an invite to our next couple of readers, the next of whom is Austin Davis. And Austin is a poet from Arizona who is currently studying creative writing at ASU. Austin is the author of The World Isn't the Size of Our Neighborhood Anymore and Celestial Nightlight. Thank you very much, Austin, for joining us. We're hoping to hear poems either from those, some new stuff, whatever you want to share with us. We're excited to hear it.
Hey there, can you hear me, Tom?
You can, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I just wanted to say that real quick. And everyone's poems are just incredible. This is such a cool space. And before I start, I just wanted to send a virtual hug to Kristin and her family. And everyone, really, So this first poem I'm going to read is called Tell Me About Your Day. And it's from my new micro chat book from Ghost City Press called Celestial Nightlight. Tell me about your day. We meet up in the library parking lot every night after you get off work at the drugstore. We lay on the roof of my van and stare up at the sky. You call the stars cosmic freckles and tell me that our biology teacher from high school buys extra small condoms, and that the V on the middle of a Valium pill looks like a little heart that wants more than anything to become a circle. I nod and laugh and think about how we're both going to die some night in our sleep, and we'll never see it coming. The leaves have no idea they're going to fall. The fish have no idea they're going to be eaten by an unhappy family around a big oak table. And you have no idea that getting to hear about your day for 32 and a half minutes every night is what makes me okay with waking up in the morning. I suppose this is the way living has always been. You think you're happy until you meet that person who makes you notice every ache in your chest. Maybe we should drive my van into the book deposit bin and steal all the books our consciences can carry. Maybe we should make out, or make love, or make up some story about a little home in the mountains with art on the walls, a pineapple pizza cooking in the oven, and 1979 by the Smashing Pumpkins playing on a ham radio in the kitchen. In my mind, you're pulling into the driveway in the same car you're driving tonight, about to lay with me by the fireplace on our rug of pink and yellow orchids. Tell me all about the last 10 hours of your existence and make me feel like the man who cried into the clouds during a solar eclipse and didn't go blind. Thank you. So that was my first poem. The second poem I'm going to read is also from this little chat book, and it's a little longer, and it's kind of weird and abstract, and it's called Marshmallow. You used to call me at my home on your purple rotary phone with the really long extension cord every evening when the sky turned as dark as black. This was during a time when everything was funny, but no one knew how to laugh. All the living rooms in every city were filled with mothers watching their game shows, spooning peas and custard into their mouths from the microwaves on their laps. All the garages in every suburb were filled with weeping fathers, balancing on their heads like clowns after sex who had run out of cigarettes. We used to watch the fathers from doorway to doorway as they hit something with a hammer that didn't need to be fixed. I kept my phone duct taped to my chest all day, waiting for your call. But when the phone did ring, all sad and quiet, I waited 12 and a half seconds before answering. I knew it was you. You knew it was me. But who wants to admit that to themselves? I'd pick up the phone, and you'd be chewing gum on the other end, like always. And you'd blow another pink bubble out of your mouth, hoping it would float you to me. It never did. As I spit a ball of snot onto the shadows dancing along my wall, you would say from your throat, not your teeth, not everything needs to be fixed, Marshmallow. Some houses are built with the wrong bricks. Don't blame the painter for trying to color a hole, Marshmallow. Did you know that your skin crawls at night when you're alone in bed because there are always ladybugs making love underneath your toenails? It's a shame your eyes are on the opposite end of your body, isn't it, Marshmallow? Haven't you ever blinked yourself to life in complete darkness and screamed until the walls closed in around you, trying to get you to shut the hell up? Haven't you ever awoken to sunshine and cried so long your bed sunk deep into the earth, thinking maybe you'd sprout one day like a dandelion if you knew what the dirt tasted like? Some seeds won't turn into grass, Marshmallow. Some seeds will feed the birds. Some seeds will kill the squirrels. Some seeds will explode in your stomach. Across the hall, in every cradle and every upstairs, there was a baby wishing someone would hug him. He didn't know what a hug was, and he didn't know why he wanted one, but he could feel his skin growing old. He knew he hadn't been touched since he was a goldfish. In every attic, above every hell, there was a girl kissing her elbows over and over again, reassuring the birds resting on the windowsill that if a tattoo can be removed, so can a scar. I used to walk from room to room while you spoke to me, looking in on the people I loved as they fell apart. The world is a broken light bulb no one cares enough about to sweep up. Please, Marshmallow, lick the glass until your tongue bleeds sunlight. I mouthed along to your words as you said them, as if they are a song and not a suicide. You could never see me over the phone, but you could hear the click of my lips and the snap of my spit matching yours, and when you finally stopped talking, we felt the bubble pop all over our faces. And in that silence, we both knew that for the rest of the night, at least we'd still be in love. Thank you. Do I have time for one more short poem? I'm not really sure what the time's looking like.
Well, yes, you do. Do it.
Okay, awesome.
Nobody's breaking the rules. Break the rules. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this is a poem, a new poem that I just wrote, and it's called Happy Birthday. There's a yellow balloon the color of autumn after snow bouncing around my chest. I often mistake its rhythm for my heartbeat, so trust me, I know I can't be trusted. Let's play a party game where we have to take turns telling each other about all our fears and mistakes and take a shot each time we wish we had a time machine. We'll be blackout drunk before the guests start ringing our doorbell. Last night, I broke into my old elementary school and left a coffee mug full of wet dirt and seeds in the janitor's closet to see if it's possible for a flower to grow tall and bright under the glow of a light bulb on a string. I've always thought of happiness as being tangible, the most brilliant mango hanging from the highest branch. But if we can't even find the forest, how are we supposed to climb the tree? Each day numbs me into dismissiveness until my lips are purple from wine and I'm sitting on the patio watching the rain darken the red brick tiles around my feet. Fill my lungs with hot breath, baby, and we'll blow out the candles together, sing that familiar tune, learn how to pop without a sound. Thank you all so much for listening to my poems.
Thank you so much, Austin. That was marvelous. I'm glad that you were brave enough to share the extra poem. I appreciate it greatly, and so I'm sure will our listeners. That was Austin Davis, who you can find on Twitter at Austin, AUSTIN_Davis, DAVIS 17. And Austin's new chapbook, Celestial Nightlight, just came out from Ghost City Press. You heard a poem from it earlier. It's free to read, and all tips go to Black Lives Matter. Thank you so much, Austin, for being with us. That was wonderful. And believe it or not, yeah, we're in the back half of our live reading order for us this evening. Not to say that that's all we have as live readers, but we are very excited to welcome another performance anxiety alum, somebody who last time she performed was in the throes of, unfortunately, COVID-19, and we're very happy to hear the road to recovery, though it's been rocky, is, clearly being traveled by Jill Bergantz. And Jill Bergantz has a lot of great stuff going on. She's currently editing 2 anthologies, Written Here and There, a 50th year publication from the community of writers, and Line of Fire from Middle Creek Press on climate disaster and its toll. You can catch the call on her Twitter at Jill Bergantz, which is JILLBERGANTS. Or sorry, GANTZ, what am I talking about? Also, Jill is finishing up her own manuscript, Nobody's Coming, on marriage as a trauma response. Some parts are hilarious, she swears to dog. I hope your dog will be joining us tonight, Jill, but if not, that's okay. We're also very excited for your poems. Thanks.
Thank you. I know my dog is really the big draw. She's unfortunately full of tomatoes she stole out of the garden, and now she's sleeping over, waiting, hoping I'll open the door again so she can steal the rest of the tomatoes out of the garden. Can everybody hear me? Yeah? Okay, awesome. Okay, here's some COVID poems. Y'all. The first one is called Hannah. The rest of her is gowned and masked. But Hannah has written her name on her face shield, right where it meets her forehead. I'm here just for my COVID test. I'm here just on this Tuesday. Are you feeling safe at home? She asks. He moved out, I tell her. I am on the exam table in my street clothes. I am sitting still, alive. And through the plastic suit she dons and doffs, I tell her, I'm sorry, I am dangerous. There is no cure but today. There is a treatment, mirror and palindrome. It is my name typed neatly for the court. Signature, right where it meets petitioner. A survivor goes to the doctor in the pandemic year. Your test came back negative, double-gloved as he dismisses me. My throat is raw hamburger. A head, a home for lost aftershocks. I sleep 16 hours of every 24. I am coughing. Someone spiked the air. I said continuity of care. I meant I saw his face on Zoom, and my gut didn't balloon animal itself into THREAT, and so I brought my body here. There's only one gown, he says, offering its communion. There is too much broad-brushed Botticelli me. He has decided it must be my chest. He has decided I'll have the EKG. 10 minutes it takes me to tell him about all the screws. It brings a lab technician to my wake. Neither man remembers the workaround placement when their patient has a broken tibia, fibula, calcaneus, hardware. They'll try me out, see what works. Electrode snake up my legs, each man matching his placement with his colleague on his chosen half of me, until my skin goes velvet, until they run out of legs. Instead of asking, instead of asking, instead of asking. This is as good as we're going to get. He cannot clean read my results. Instead of asking, come toward me. Watch me stop my beating heart. Down for something lighter? How about this brand new poem from today? After Camus' Invincible Summer, right? Do you know that quote? About how he found within himself this invincible summer. What did he say? It says that no matter how hard the world pushes against him, there's something stronger that pushes back. Right? I don't know if I completely buy that, but I'll write a poem about it a little bit. Maybe another poem where I don't believe it. Here's the one where I do. Today, 7 pinches of dandelion caught in ash on the tomato leaves. 6 times I wished for the gift of estivation. 7th, for the death of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. I don't want it to be this way, and yet it is. I am desirous, not of the torpor of the hummingbird, or what happens to a resurrection fern, of sleep that hides from me at night, rubs its muzzle on the window panes. Make me dormant as a dog would, and I'll be your buckeye, green ahead of you. Take my hand. I'm seeding out before the others. Fall, while you are in your summer, arranging my vernation. I'll be leading the parade. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jill, for those incredible poems. I think in the chat, Holly just called Jill luminous, and I think that is absolutely the appropriate adjective for the moment. That, again, was Jill Bergantz, who is coming to us live. And that, that again, Jill Bergantz, you can find on Twitter and Instagram at Jill Bergantz, which I'll spell right this time, JILLBERGANTZ. And Jill has a recent publication in Barrow Street, but more importantly, she says, read Holly Pileski's work in it and her work in general. Do not sleep on her. That's Holly Pileski at HOLLYPELESKY with a Y, who's joining us this evening. So I hope that that goodwill is felt, because it's great, and I really love it when people shout out about people's work. It's a beautiful surprise. What coincidences wrought by poetry this evening. So just know that was, a beautiful coincidence. And thanks again, Jill. Those were amazing, amazing pieces. And I can't wait to hear your poem where you don't believe Camus. I'm going to talk about Camus with my kids in like a week and a half. So it'll be good. I can share with them both sides of the story if you write that other poem. So we are already, believe it or not, at our last live reader of the evening, someone I'm very excited to introduce, who has published some people I adore dearly and also does amazing work of his own, Timothy Tarkelly. And Timothy Tarkelly's work has appeared in Peculiars Magazine, Back Patio Press, The Daily Drunk, and others. He's had 2 books published by Spartan Press, Luckhound and Gently in Manner, Strongly Indeed, Poems on Eisenhower. He also runs Roaring Junior Press, which publishes primarily sci-fi, fantasy, and horror chapbooks. Thank you so much, Timothy, for being with us tonight. I'm really excited to hear what you're going to share with us this evening.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me? All right. So this first poem I'm going to read was actually just put up on the Daily Drunk a couple weeks ago, and it goes out to my very good friend, John Dorsey. It's called Maybe We Should Start a Poets Bowling League. Would we play against other poets, the New York school in their mismatched jackets, violently sending the ball away, short, choppy movements in any direction they feel like? Or a dapper group of modernists who never take their turn? They're too busy writing anthems about the polished floors, about the sine wave skyline of the pins, how coquina rock and strip mall architecture gives them hope. Or other kinds of writers, the tough guy pulp fiends who shine their bowling balls with ink ribbons. Or worse, Bret Easton Ellis, who spends the night not bowling at all, refusing to pay the price for the shoe rental, just tells us we're all doing it wrong. He'd teach us the right way, but there are simply too many rules for our Miller High Life minds. But we know who it would really be, and they would win. A patchwork of men with custom bags, Hank embroidered in the center. They don't come for the cheese fries and beer, but for the taste of competition. Majored in marketing, and now look at the bowling alley and see only its output potential. The ratio of pitchers being served to waitresses being paid to peddle them. And a few others who were surprised to see that poets can lift bowling balls at all. They thought books were for the weak, the only legs they have to stand on. Thank you. I love the silent applause. This next one is called The Night Eddie Got Real Excited. Because I slap motherfuckers. Because the Gretsch is a street built just for me. Because I'll park in any direction that suits me. Because I can lift my own body weight and look good doing it. My forehead a creaseless ode to the gods who sculpted me. I am marble. I am permanent, and I am ready for all that permanency entails. Because I don't have hangovers, or at least don't understand what one is. Because when I tell people this over their groans and churning stomachs, they look at me like I am invincible or stupid. Or maybe you can't be one without the other. Because I may not know what a metaphor is, but my brazen behavior is a gold mine, a factory for figures of speech, proof of archetypal destinies, because I can play the guitar even if it's just well enough to drown out the radio. Because my Mustang is better than his Mustang, even with the ripped interior, even though my mom bought it for me, even though I've never taken it over 85, even though it wasn't enough to keep my girlfriend around, to keep her interested. Because it will be enough to carry me anywhere I want to go. Mountaintops and deserts, empty lots and stranded plains, enough room for me to stretch out, stare at the scars, and ask, how does the moon change shapes? Because I might have slept through science class, but I am suddenly good at making friends and fear I might have to return again to the rising Ford that knows no confidence, that only lets me stand as a sliver of the man I am right now. Thank you. I forgot to mention these ones I'm reading now are from my book Luckhound, published by Spartan Press. God bless you, Jason Rieberg. This one is a true story. I was visiting New York once, and the woman who was running the Airbnb I was staying at actually asked me if I had ever had a bagel before, because she didn't think we had them in Kansas. It's called, Have You Ever Seen a Sunset? I don't mind saying that there are no sunsets like Kansas sunsets. So much open space, flat ground to fall to. All knees and dropped jaws at the pink, red slit in the sky. Last time I was in New York, a woman asked me if I had ever had a bagel before. And I wish we had that kind of arrogance. That we were members of an elite breakfast pastry society. The only ones to have ever tasted the things we hold dear. And maybe arrogance isn't the right word. She was probably trying to be nice, offering a small slice of what brings her to the ground. So from now on, whenever I make introductions, I'll just ask, have you ever seen a sunset? Thank you. Thank you. This is the last one I'm going to read, and it's dedicated to a very good friend of mine, Orlando Garcia. It's called Thanksgiving Break at the Brass Rail. My white shirt fits so well, I didn't even wear anything over it. Yeah, it was winter, but what is the cold against brand new confidence still in its plastic wrap? The bar was practically empty, and I had you laughing, saying, you lucky bastard, within minutes. It was Thanksgiving break. I was 15 pounds lighter, freshly single, and stranded, at least as far as family was concerned. But who says family can't be born out of whatever it's called when your life strips you of everything? Then one day, it's all the way into late afternoon, you wake up, you pull an old white undershirt from the back seat of your car, and it fits so well. And on that day, the crack of a wishbone sounds just like two glasses clinking to your newfound freedom. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Timothy. I don't think I've seen that many like cry laughing emojis in response in Skype chat in quite a while at Performance Anxiety. So that was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. That again was Timothy Tarkelly, who you can find on Twitter at Timothy Timothy Tarkelly Tarkelly on Twitter, and at Tarkelly Tarkelly on Instagram. And Roaring Junior Press, which is found at roaringjunior.press, has multiple books coming out over the next few months. The next one is The Incubus by Samuel Strapman, who I think runs Lighthouse, or another really awesome poetry journal. And that'll be released sometime this month. So thank you, Timothy, so much for sharing that with us. And thank you so much for all the amazing work you do in publishing to share great work with us all the time. This is, absolutely a remarkably fast Performance Anxiety for my brain, because we are already at our last live reader of the evening, which is kind of blowing my mind. But I'm really, really excited to introduce her. This is Lynne Schmidt. And Lynne Schmidt is the granddaughter of a Holocaust survivor and mental health professional with a focus in trauma and healing. She's the author of the chapbooks Gravity from Nightingale and Sparrow Press, which was listed as one of the 17 best breakup books to read in 2020, and On Becoming a Role Model from 30 West, which is featured on the Wardrobe's Best Dressed for PTSD Awareness Week. Her work has received the Maine Nonfiction Award, Editor's Choice Award, and was a 2018 and 2019 PNWA finalist for memoir and poetry, respectively. When given the choice, Lynne prefers the company of her 3 dogs and 1 cat to humans. Thanks, Lynne, for making an exception for us tonight.
Right, I have to unmute myself. Can everybody hear me okay? So I actually really like doing these because my dog is actually currently laying on me. Even if you can't see her, her head is right here. So I really like cuddling with my pets. Thank you guys so much for having me tonight. This has been an incredible experience, one, because I haven't used Skype literally since like 2011, and also because so many of you are my friends on Twitter and on Instagram, and it's so great to actually hear you reading your work. That's phenomenal, and it was so good. So with that, and also Tom, I wanted to tell you that you should totally be a radio host because you just talk so well. It was amazing. Oh wait, I think I can see people typing now. That's exciting. Okay, but so I've also had some caffeine, but realistically it was yesterday. I just really caffeine intolerant and it keeps going. But so I'm going to start off by reading to you from On Becoming a Role Model. It was published by 30 West, which is an awesome team to work with if they are open for submissions. I don't know if they are right now, but if they are, you should submit to them. So the first poem that I have for you is The Kind of Man My Father Is. The metal snaps against wood loud enough we pause the TV. The 3 of us go over to the trap, and I pray for a quick death, a false alarm. Instead, my sisters and I find a mouse caught, jaw broken, back paws frantically kicking the metal arm, crushing it. My bone marrow wants to free him, wants to put warning signals around the traps for the others. Our father marches in. My sisters and I freeze before scurrying to the couch. I keep my eyes on the TV, careful not to watch what happens behind me. He picks up the trap, struggling mouse and all, and walks to the wood stove. In one motion, with no more emotion than putting another log on the fire, my father opens the door and lifts the metal arm, and I can still hear the mouse screaming. Thank you. So I don't know if you guys, I did hear somebody read about Alabama. Like a big difference between poetry readings in the North and the South is the clapping. So this is really surreal doing a reading on here because in the South, no one claps in between things. And so in the North, they do. It's amazing. Okay, sorry. I've seen Tom wave to me. Sorry. Okay, yeah, I have ADD. Sorry. The next poem I have is Alternate Universe. I have seen the moment they pull my body from the water. When they call my sisters, one of whom I just got off the phone with, she'll say she didn't want to talk. The other sister will ask why I was out so far. I've never been a strong swimmer. They both have had to leave shore to rescue me before. One will cry. The fishermen, they're the most likely to find me, to pull me into their boat. Perhaps for a moment they hoped I was a mermaid blessing their ship rather than the lump shell of flesh that gravity held too tightly to. But on that night, the water was too cold because the sun had set hours before. And so, in an alternate universe, my sisters got the call, and in this one, I watched the sunrise. Thank you. The next poem I have for you is All My Missing Teeth. I live in a seat of chronic disappointment so that if you do a fraction of a margin better than I do, I can slice apart my skin as blood trickles out in sacrifice and punishment, asking, why couldn't I do so well? As various therapists take my brain apart, a verbal lobotomy, attempting to transcribe the story of my life, I'll spend some time examining my failures under a microscope in the hopes of enduring enough radiation, enough chemotherapy, that my body can kill this cancer. And just as I think I'm holding hands with the best that I can do, my aunt will ask me why I'm not as good as my sister. And so I stop holding hands and hold guns and knives and beer bottles instead. I bite down on cement because if I can swallow and digest this, if my teeth crack, this is something I can do that no one else can. 6 years later, my therapist will sit in her chair and challenge me about self-worth. As my body recoils, she'll ask, what would it take for you to value yourself? And I'll smile with all of my missing teeth. Thank you. Do I have time for 2 more poems if they're short? Okay. So my new project that I'm working on revolves around the Holocaust. As my intro says, I'm the granddaughter of a Holocaust survivor, and with everything that's happening in the world right now, there's a lot of parallels, and it's been on my mind a lot. So the poem that I have from you is from my chapbook called, awesome. The chapbook called Babsha, which is my grandmother who passed away in 2019. She was a Holocaust survivor, and so was my Chocha Krisha. And so this poem is called The Singing Forest, and it is in reference to Buchenwald Camp, where my Chocha was held October 26, 1944 to April 20th, 1945, estimated. In the camps, they took their hands, bound behind their backs. They attached the rope to their shackled wrists, attached to a tree, and pulled. It was called The Singing Forest, and my Chocha likely heard the song and fought like hell to not sing along. Toward the end, as memories wore away like stones from rainwater, my Babsha tried to sing love songs, still tried to dance, though her legs didn't work, arms waving like bodies hung in trees. My sister teaches her children to dance. My sister teaches her children to sing. And these are the things that we pass down from those who survived. Thank you. Sorry, 2 seconds. This is where I hate like cell phones because they don't like to organize as well as like books do, and you can leave little tags. There it is. So the last poem I have for you has an earlier version in On Becoming a Role Model, a better version in this collection. So it is called Salem, Massachusetts, 2019. My niece asked the tour guide how they used to hang the witches. How did they get them to that tree branch? The tour guide offers options. A ladder kicked out from beneath, a rope over a strong limb, while strong men pulled the world out from under their feet. Sometimes the neck broke. Sometimes the victims struggled to put their fingers between their neck and the rope in hopes of oxygen. Most times, they weren't witches, just poor people, eccentric people, people who decided to have a voice. My niece is 6 years old. She knows nothing of the world yet, and I will show her that they cannot hang us all. Thank you.
Wow, Lynn, thank you so much. You've gotten some wows in the chat, and I think they are utterly warranted. It was, incredible. What an incredible note. I'm glad you ended us in Massachusetts, too, for purely selfish reasons. So that, again, was Lynne Schmidt, who you can find on Twitter at LYNNESCHMIDT and on Instagram at Lynn_E_Schmidt. Lynn also runs the project Abortion Chat, which has a Facebook page and a Twitter at Abortion Chat, all one word. And it aims to end the stigma surrounding abortion. So please consider checking out Lynn's work. She just described some of those amazing collections that we've got, especially Gravity and On Becoming a Role Model. So thank you, Lynn, and thank you for wrapping up our live readers in such a beautifully thunderous way. And I'm really excited to introduce our first recorded reader of the evening, and that is Katie Proctor, who's joining us from Kristin and some other folks in this reading's Poem a Day group. Katie recorded a poem for us that you'll hear in just a moment, but I want to introduce her first by saying that Katie Proctor is a poet from Yorkshire, England. Since she can remember, she's loved to write, whether it be prose, poetry, or stories, and writing will always be her first love. Nowadays, she writes free-form poetry and prose, often regarding her experience with love, relationships, and mental health. Her debut collection of poetry, Seasons, was published by Hedgehog Poetry Press in August 2020. Outside of writing, she's a student with a passion for literature, history, and classics, and is a big fan of Shakespeare. She loves to act and plans to study English literature at university. Thank you so much, Katie, for joining us, and here is Katie's poem, Ode to San Francisco.
Hi, my name's Katie, and this is a poem I wrote called Ode to San Francisco as part of the Poem a Day group that is running on Twitter, hosted by Kristin Garth, and I hope you like it. Ode to San Francisco. The curve of her hips tastes like desperation in the darkness of a bedroom somewhere in San Francisco. She is listless, spine twisting, Christmas lights glistening outside the frosted window, propped open with a lopsided smile. Bodies like bridges, elegant in the August low light. Arms made as though a birdcage, a million aluminium safety guarantees defying solemnity, breakable like the ferns that line the riverside. A woman made of magnets that bind her to another's touch, alone, incapable of letting go. When fireworks light up the sky, she does not look away. San Franciscan surprises burning in her lungs after all this time.
Wow, thank you, Katie. That was beautiful. And that was, again, Katie Proctor, who you can find on Twitter and Instagram at Katie Writes, KATIIEWRITES. So Katie Writes with 2 I's. And Katie's book Seasons is available now. Both signed and annotated copies can be purchased at paypal.me/Katie Proctor, Katie with 2 I's, so KATIIEPROCTOR. Signed, they're £6.99, and annotated, they're £9.99. So thank you again, Katie, for joining us and for sharing this beautiful ode to a city that's very far away from me. And now I'm really excited to introduce our last reader of the evening, who is an incredible editor, poet, and all-around human being. They've shown incredible patience to me over the years, so I'm very grateful to them for that. That is Kyle Lovell. And Kyle Lovell is a poet based in Birmingham, and they edit Fathom Sun Press. Their debut pamphlet, which I cannot say enough positive things about, I'm really excited to review it very soon. In fact, that pamphlet is called Each Sharper Complication. It was published less than a week ago by Legitimate Snack, an imprint of Broken Sleep Books. So Kyle's going to share their poems with us via recording, and I'm so excited for you to hear them. Take it away, Kyle.
Hi, I'm Kyle Lovell. First, thank you so much to Tom and Kristin for inviting me to read some poems tonight. It's an absolute joy to be part of Performance Anxiety along with everyone else here. I'm going to read a handful of poems from my pamphlet, Each Sharper Complication, which was just published on the 15th of September by Legitimate Snack. Then I'll read some notes towards a longer piece I'm working on. And thank you so much to Aaron Kent over at Legitimate Snack and Broken Sleep Books, who did a wonderful job putting my pamphlet together. The first poem is Waking Theory. Imagine beautiful and exhausted companies of dancers, of lifeguards, of accountants, with their ticked-off pay rolling out the sky. Is this the beginning? Of course not. There is still so much for a handful to do in losing a finger before the work of a real society can begin. So over time, and again overworked, I dreamt of automation theories that discussed the waking labour of waking up and interpreting sunshine. On my last partner's face, the sky had called it quits. The conditions were unfeasible and culminating in general strikes against my happiness, and I'm not a scab, but at my worst I'm in love with cruising in straight times through the suburbs of pragmatic gays who invested wisely in the right areas of legislation, of their city, of their poems, where they have double beds. So imagine beautiful, exhausted me in the arms of someone who hated someone, and let me work out the theory of waking up here. And the next poem is called Technical Notes on Mishearing. What love doesn't beyond you? Each industrial desire line pylons behind my garden. It's not hidden. It's just this summer reiterating that within an infinite universe, defeat is always inevitable, but so also is victory. So hold us close to your favourite heart and read us aloud in your favourite pub. We'll stay in a constant state of whelm, but you'll get used to it after this last season spent in another state, of being in a park at a protest, of a failure, of a tear, of a cherry tree that spits its seeds into my favourite poem that you will read into a friend's mouth. Each month and Monday always intends to pass on that inherent once more time passes, but we've got Stendo's radio in here, and it tells me how she's coping with all of this. When you spend a year in the middle of love, it's difficult not to crack the plaster of a holiday in here. Welcome, biped. We're screwing up our harmony, our compasses misaligned. And then the last poem from the pamphlet is called Windsheep Repetition. Windsheep is a suburb of Canterbury, where I was studying. Refolding immediate loves into sheet metal. Can I offer you a long-term warranty on that burnishment? Excessive polishing is just as bad as inattention, though that's aesthetics for you getting all caught up in a typo. I've been as artificial as the next son of a bastard, and drunk as him too. After all, you caught my latest batch of drifting nightly through these penny arcades. It's romance. It's romance. It's an ode about romance. And finally, to round out this reading, some notes for a longer piece. I don't know what to do with all this air, so I spend a little on the laminate flooring. The fox likes to tell me not to cry, sing brutal instead. And so I tell the fox that one day I will find and bite God with all this love I have for them. It will be as humble as an intervention, and as simple as degaussing our student debt. 5 days sober, and the fox likes to tell me about their coping habits, asking for another light. Just like a late-night modernist pamphlet, botanical topography is a subject not wholly without interest or value, but the fox is determined to prove otherwise. The fox tells me that his landlord was a local policeman who liked to harass the Greenfields and Barkers of London. The fox says that I like my love the same as my language, served alongside 7 types of ambiguity. Empson, Chateau and Windus, 1930. So, in no uncertain terms, I tell the fox to fuck right off, but uncracked they deter on. We could be anywhere by now. Thank you again to everyone who read tonight, and once more, huge thanks to Tom and Kristin.
Wow. Yeah, I hope you understand where I was coming from in the intro now, because that, again, was Kyle Lovell, who you can find on Twitter at VaguelyKyle, VaguelyKyle. And that pamphlet, again, that you heard some poems from is called Each Sharper Complication. Kyle's pamphlet was published by Legitimate Snack, an imprint of Broken Sleep Books, and it's just
phenomenal. I really hope you check it out. I hope you enjoy it half as much as I have, because it's a remarkable piece of work. Thank you so much, Kyle, for those wonderful poems.
I want to say thank you so much to all of our readers for sharing their incredible work with us this evening, and thank you too to our listeners for giving this hour or so of your lives over to poetry. And I hope if you're listening, you might consider dropping us a line at Performance Anxiety, Performance ANXT on Twitter, or at my email, which is just tomsnarsky@gmail.com, in case you'd like to share your work at a future event. Our next reading is going to be October 15th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, and there are plenty of slots still open. As a small closing gesture for our incredibly unique and sadly absent co-organizer, Kristin Garth, who could not join us this evening as she and her family pick up the pieces of normalcy after Hurricane Sally, I'd like to read a poem that is from one of my two models of rhyming American poetry by women. Kristin is one of them, and this poet is the other. This is called Hope is the Thing with Feathers. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul, and sings the tune without the words, and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land, and on the strangest sea, yet never, in extremity, it asked a crumb of me.